there is a fantasy of the Imperial Harem, a world of impossible luxury, silken indulgence, and the romantic favor of a divine emperor. But this is a dangerous illusion. To truly understand life inside ancient China's forbidden city, you must first see it for what it was, the world's most beautiful prison. Imagine being chosen from among thousands, destined to spend the night with the most powerful man in the empire. But instead of romance, your evening is a portrait of control, beginning with cold silence and a strict checklist overseen by guards and officials. This was the hidden reality for the women of the harem, the concubines, consorts, and empresses, each one a jewel in the emperor's collection, but a prisoner nonetheless. Bound by centuries of tradition and watched under the relentless gaze of palace law, their lives unfolded in a gilded cage where personal choice was a fantasy and every breath was governed by the state. The emperor may have held absolute power over the empire, but even his most intimate moments were not truly his own. Every evening, a sacred and unchangeable routine would unfold. After completing his state duties, the emperor would return to his private chambers to find the chief eunuch waiting with a ceremonial tray. Upon this tray lay a collection of jade plaques, each inscribed with the name of a consort available for the evening. This was the emperor's choice, but it was rarely a free one. The arrangement of these plaques was a subtle but powerful political tool. Influential eunuchs or court advisors would often arrange the names to ensure their favored women were presented more prominently. Through this quiet manipulation, they could promote the families they were allied with, curry favor, or secure their own positions of power. So, when the emperor casually flipped over a plaque, he was often not choosing a woman, but unknowingly ratifying a political decision made for him in the shadows. Once the emperor's choice was made, a highly organized ritual began for the chosen woman. This was not a simple preparation, but a systematic stripping away of her individual identity. First, she was required to bathe in water infused with rare herbs and fragrant oils, a process believed to purify the body and enhance fertility. This was less about hygiene and more a spiritual ceremony, meant to cleanse her of any bad fortune before she approached the divine emperor. After her bath, attendants would wrap her not in fine clothes, but in a simple silk covering, often a single embroidered robe or blanket. Her hair would be combed and her skin powdered until she was an image of perfect, serene beauty. Before she could leave her quarters, a final, crucial inspection was conducted by a senior eunuch. No jewelry, no hairpins, no ornaments of any kind were permitted, lest a blade or poison be concealed within them. The emperor's safety was paramount, and in this moment, the woman was rendered utterly harmless, a perfect and anonymous vessel. The woman's journey to the emperor was a masterpiece of controlled logistics. She did not walk. Instead, she was carefully placed on a silk-covered stretcher and lifted by a group of trusted eunuchs. These men, loyal only to the throne, carried her silently through the dark, labyrinthine corridors of the Forbidden City toward the emperor's private quarters. While being carried might sound elegant, its true purpose was strategic paranoia. The palace had strict protocols to prevent a concubine from smuggling anything dangerous beneath her robes. By lifting her off the ground, officials eliminated the possibility of anything being hidden in her shoes and severely limited her ability to move freely or unpredictably. Upon arrival at the emperor's chamber, another inspection was often performed before she was gently placed on the imperial bed. Stripped of her identity and carried like a precious object, she was not arriving as a partner, but as a package being delivered. Inside the emperor's chamber, the atmosphere was one of absolute hierarchy. The concubine was forbidden from speaking unless the emperor initiated the conversation. This rule wasn't just about control. It was a constant reinforcement of her status as a servant of the emperor's will and pleasure. This was not an act of passion, but a state duty, and it was timed as such. Each visit was strictly monitored and scheduled to last around 1 hour. Just outside the chamber doors, eunuchs stood as silent sentinels, ready to call out softly when the allotted time was nearly up. If they received no response from the emperor, they were under strict orders to enter the room discreetly to check on his well-being. When the visit concluded, The ritual of delivery was performed in reverse. The woman was wrapped once more in silk, not allowed to linger, and carried back to her residence. This prevented any single woman from gaining too much influence by spending extra time with the emperor, ensuring order was always preserved. The Imperial Harem was one of the most closely observed and documented parts of court life. Every interaction was recorded in meticulous detail by court officials. Records were kept not only of who spent the night with the emperor, but for precisely how long and on what date. If a child was conceived, this obsessive tracking was used to prove the legitimacy of the imperial bloodline, ensuring the dynasty was never in question. A woman's very biology was a matter of state security. During menstruation, a concubine was forbidden from being selected, as it was believed to bring bad luck or interfere with the emperor's vital energy. To signal this, women developed discreet methods such as wearing gold rings, tying red ribbons around their wrists, or placing red lanterns outside their doors. However, some ambitious concubines, desperate for favor, would conceal their status and risk severe punishment. In response, the palace ordered eunuchs to keep detailed logs of each woman's menstrual cycle, adding yet another layer of invasive control over their lives. Life in the palace was a constant balance between luxurious surfaces and lethal dangers. The emperor's affection was a potent force, and when one woman received too much of it, it could breed intense jealousy and violent rivalries. One of the most terrifying chapters in the harem's history occurred during the reign of the Jiajing emperor. Obsessed with finding the secret to immortality, he forced his concubines to assist in dangerous alchemical experiments, making them consume toxic potions. Many of the women grew terribly ill, others died. Finally, pushed beyond their limits, a small group of concubines decided they would rather risk death than endure his cruelty any longer. They banded together and attempted to assassinate the emperor in his sleep. Their desperate plan failed, and the punishment was swift and absolute. All involved were executed with the harshest sentences known to imperial law, a grim reminder that in this gilded cage, the stakes were always life and death. While the emperor's cruelty was a clear danger, his love could be just as deadly. No story illustrates this better than that of Yang Guifei, one of the most famous concubines in Chinese history. During the Tang dynasty, she completely captured the heart of Emperor Xuanzong. Her beauty was legendary, but so was her influence over the ruler. Her meteoric rise sparked furious jealousy among rival consorts and deep resentment from powerful court officials, who saw her as a dangerous distraction. When a massive rebellion threatened the empire, the military pointed their fingers at one person, Yang Guifei. They blamed her for the crisis and demanded her execution as the price for their loyalty. To save his throne, the heartbroken emperor agreed. Yang Guifei was taken to a remote temple and died there, though whether by her own hand or by royal order remains a mystery. Her story became a timeless legend, immortalized in poems and paintings, as a woman loved by an emperor, but destroyed by his court. In this world, dominated by the emperor, and defined by the women of the harem, the true power brokers often operated from the shadows, the palace eunuchs. These men, unable to father children and start their own dynasties, were seen as the ultimate loyal servants of the throne. This unique position granted them unparalleled access and influence. It was a eunuch who presented the jade plaques that decided a woman's fate for the evening. It was a eunuch who inspected her for weapons, stripping her of all defenses. It was a team of eunuchs who physically carried her to the emperor's bed, controlling her every move. They stood guard outside the emperor's chamber, acting as the final line of defense, and they were the administrators of the harem's most intimate secrets, tracking the menstrual cycles of every woman within its walls. By controlling the flow of information, access, and even the very bodies of the concubines, the eunuchs wielded a quiet but absolute power that could build fortunes and end lives. The elaborate bedroom rituals of the Imperial Harem were never about love or passion. They were a complex system designed for three purposes: control, legacy, and survival. From the silent corridors to the carefully chosen jade plaques, every detail reinforced a system where personal emotion was a dangerous liability and duty to the throne was everything. Yet to see these women only as victims is to miss the other half of their story. The harem was an oppressive institution, but it was also a political crucible that forged some of history's most remarkable figures. Though surrounded by spies, rivals, and rules, many women learned to navigate the treacherous currents of power. They built alliances, manipulated the system that was meant to contain them, and placed their sons on the dragon throne. While most remain anonymous, their collective story, and the legendary tales of women like Yang Guifei, remains one of the most fascinating aspects of Chinese history, a testament to the enduring will to survive, and even thrive, within the walls of a beautiful prison.